Awayithande awayifuni
NUMSA, yo NUMSA,
ayiwafuna amaphutho
NUMSA,
asiwafuna amakhapeta
NUMSA,
lesoshalesi soshalesi
yo NUMSA.
From the 14th to the 18th of October 2023, the third International Dilemmas of Humanity Dialogues Towards Socialism Conference was hosted in Johannesburg, South Africa. More than 500 political leaders, activists, and intellectuals from trade unions, political parties, and social movements all over the world took part in this historic conference to produce reflections and create a common platform for action to overcome the main challenges facing humanity today. At the conference, activists discussed socialist solutions to the capitalist and imperialist crisis we face today. Workers' Power sat down with key leaders to find out more. Hello and welcome to another episode of Workers' Power, where in this episode, we will be talking to Peter Mertens, who is the General Secretary of the Workers' Party of Belgium.
You gave some very interesting points this morning. You were talking about class and why we cannot deviate from the issue of class and class struggle. Could you please just unpack a little bit for our viewers what you were saying today at the Dilemmas of Humanity?
Yes, capitalism is a class society, and it means that in the production, your place in the production, whether you produce goods and whether you sell your labor to someone else or you live from the fruit of the labor of someone else, that is a class division. Those who sell their labors, those who work, those who construct things, those who make things and construct society, they give their labor to the capitalists, and the capitalists take the labor from the working class. And so that is a class division, and it exists in South Africa, it exists in Latin America, exists in Asia, and exists also in Europe and in my country, in Belgium. And it does matter, because the producing class, the class that produces the wealth, has not the power. It is a capitalist class that has the power. And so your position, if you are born in a working class family, your ability to live live long in health is less than when you were born from a rich man's family. Also in Europe, in my country, there's 8 years of difference if you're born in a working class family or if you're born in a rich family, and so on. So class does matter, and if you see history, we have seen all kinds of societies the last 100,000 years, but in all of them there was always a working class. There has never been a society without a working class. But socialism, the future society, will be a society without an exploiting class. And the main goal, I think, whether it is in Africa, whether it is in Latin America or in Europe, is that the producing class, the creative class, the class that works, gets also the power.
So, look, for us as South Africans, looking at yourselves, Belgium, it's global south versus Western Europe.
Yeah.
There is an assumption that the working class in Belgium is probably better off. I mean, when we compare the standard of living. But you said something very interesting in the input. You said the working class everywhere, even in your country, is under attack. Could you expand a little bit about what that looks like in Belgium? What are the conditions affecting the working class in your country? And what are some of the ways that your organization is tackling those issues?
I think there is poverty coming up in the working class all over in Europe. Of course, it is not the same level like poverty here in Africa, but it is poverty. Like, there are nurses now in my country and in the United Kingdom that at the end of the month they won't go anymore to their work. Why? They can't afford the bus ticket or the fuel. So they call themselves, the nurses themselves, they call themselves sick at the end of the month. And it's not an exception. In the UK, it's a lot of them. In the UK, in hospitals, they now set up food banks, but not for the patients, food bank for the nurses. And that's the situation today in some parts of the working class in Europe. And so we tackle on two levels. The first level is the bread and butter issues. So like we have initiatives like Medicine for the People. That's free health clinics that we organize. We go in people's quarters And we organize free health in these people's quarters, and we organize people around free health care. And it's a very down-to-earth, concrete way to organize and help people with free. I serve the people. That's the idea behind. And on the other level, we try to organize people in trade unions and in our party to get more education, to get more sense of struggles. It's on these two levels where we organize themselves. And of course, it's a long struggle everywhere, also in Europe. But we are hopeful because I think what we are doing in South Africa or in Brazil, everywhere, we have history on our side. We have the right. We are right. What we want, education. What we want, healthcare. What we want, housing for everyone. What we want, a future for everyone. The basic things that are not tackled by capitalism. Capitalism cannot offer the basic things, and I think the conviction that working class and the struggle for socialism is right. It is right. That's our conviction, and then we have to search the ways and the paths to reach them. It's sometimes difficult, and sometimes we win some and lose some. But we are right, and we will win at the end.
I'd like to also talk a little bit about AI, artificial intelligence, and how this has sort of created an even greater divide and deepened suffering for the working class. Is that, for us in Africa, certainly that is something that we are deeply concerned about. If I'm going to give you an example, in South Africa, the changes in the way of work, if we look in the auto sector, for example, the shift from combustion engines to electric vehicles is creating a shift, right, in the production. There's more reliance on technology and less reliance on human labor. At the same time, this new technology is not owned by the working class. So for yourselves as a communist party in Belgium, how do you see this issue of artificial intelligence, of the role of artificial intelligence and the changes in the world of work? How is that affecting workers in Belgium or in Europe? And how do you think we should tackle that from a socialist perspective?
First, let me tell, I'm in favor of progress, also scientific progress. And the possibilities of scientific knowledge, the possibilities behind all this electrification, behind the energy transformation, the possibilities behind the digital agenda and the artificial intelligence is huge. There are technical possibilities that normally in a just society could make the work for workers more visible, more light, could make the work for workers shorter work days. And normally the machine, the advancement would not be the enemy of the worker. It's an old discussion. When in the beginning of capitalism, like in my country and in the UK, where the first industrial revolution started, the first workers, what did they do? They attacked the machines. They smashed the machines, because they thought the machines are the enemy. And then Marx says, no, the machines and the science is not the enemy, it's the capitalistic use of the machines as the enemy. And I think on artificial intelligence on the same way. I'm not against artificial intelligence. I'm not against the scientific electrification, digitalization agenda, etc. But I'm against the capital use of them, because the rates of exploitation becomes bigger instead of lesser. And so I think, like what is happening in Europe on that agenda, that because of the digitalization and artificial intelligence, your productivity rate is raising, and you're producing more. But we are saying the productivity gains must come back to the workers with less hours, because otherwise they will create mass employment, and those who have work will continue to work long days, and all the gains of productivity will go to the capitalist class. So there is on a small level also the discussion of the redistribution of all these gains. I don't know if it makes sense in my English.
I understand what you're saying, and I'd like you to please answer one last question. Are you following the events in Francophone Africa, where you've seen a big push, a big anti-imperialist push, a push to kick the French out? You know, the colonizers, where some of these countries are trying to sort of be fully independent. What is your view as the Communist Party in Belgium? What is your view around all of those issues?
I think it's about time. I think there is coming for Europe, and especially coming for Belgium, because we in Belgium we have a very bloody history. Not we, working class, but the regime in Belgium has a colonial legacy, a bloody colonial legacy in Congo, as you know. Like France has 300-400 years of colonial history and exploitation, like Spain has 500 years, like the Netherlands. The European empires and the beginning of capitalism was built on the blood of exploitation of Africa and Latin America. That's a reality. And afterwards it was colonialism, and then it was neo-colonialism. And that these days in Africa there are people coming up and saying, okay, we will keep the imperialists out, all of them. We agree, of course. They have to be kicked out. Which form it takes, that is of the people of Africa and each country to decide. And you don't have to be idealistic. One country, the situation is other than in another country. And maybe it's with the coup d'etat, maybe it's with the popular movement. It can be, but at the end of the day, it is the imperialistic French regimes that are kicked out, and that is a good question. I do think that the 21st century, if we are going to socialism, we also have to end neo-colonialism and neo-imperialism, also French and also Belgian and also European neo-colonialism, not only American neo-colonialism. I believe in an independent Europe, independent from the United States, but I also believe in an anti-colonial Europe, in a Europe that has trade relations with Africa, with Latin America on a solid and on a good base, and not on an exploitative base.
Remember to follow NUMSA Media on YouTube. Like, subscribe, and share to as many people as you know.